Hi, welcome to What's Your Story? I'm Alex James, and today's guest is Christine Chambers, and we're going to be talking about all things spiritual. So mainly, and I mean spirits as in ghosts. Is that right, Christine?
Absolutely, all things spooky.
All things spooky. That's what I meant to say. All things spooky. So, if you have listened to any of my radio interviews, you'll know that I've spoken to Christine before. Christine is a psychic mentor, and is a psychic and a dowser, and is a long-standing friend of mine. But we thought it would be, because it's that time of year, isn't it, Christine, when it's kind of dark evenings, and we've just had Halloween, so. Thought we would talk about ghosts. So, Christine, over to you. What are ghosts? That's the thing I want to ask you.
Well, ghosts are different to spirits, and I don't mean the drinking kind either. Ghosts are they're like a replay in the energy around us. So to explain that further, we're all energy. So we are, everything in the universe is energy. Everything around you is energy. We're energy. Everything is. The only reason that we can feel, say, this chair that I'm sitting in, is because we're vibrating on the same level as that. So we can feel it. It's vibrating at the same level that we are. With ghosts and spirits and angels and anything else in the spirit realm, they're vibrating on a different frequency to us. So they're vibrating at a higher frequency. If we were vibrating that frequency, we'd be able to see them like I'm seeing you now. Now, what a psychic medium or a spiritual medium can do, they can tune into that vibrational energy. Now, everyone has this ability. I need to explain this so that we can, when we can move on to the ghosts and spirits that I've seen and that other people have seen, will understand what I'm saying. Everybody is psychic. Everybody has that ability to use what we call our intuition and tune in to the spirit world around us, which can mean picking up all sorts of things. But it's whether we choose to use it or not, or whether we choose to develop it. Some people are naturally born with it. It's more heightened in some people, and some people choose to learn how to do it. For me, it was a natural thing. Not realizing I had that gift as a young person. So for me, seeing spirit and seeing ghosts, which I'll explain what they are in a minute, is quite natural. It's quite normal. I'm used to it. Although sometimes they do still make me jump, I have to say. So
Did you really saw them? Sorry, interrupting you. You actually really saw them as a child?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So did you
Lots
see
of
them
children
and
do.
thought that they were real people?
Oh yeah. Lots of children do see spirit, and you must have heard of children saying, "My imaginary friend," or "My friend Bill over there. I've been playing sort of with him, and we've had great fun. We've been doing this and doing that." And Mum will go, "But there's nobody there." But that child will be as real to that child. The ghost child will be as real to that child as me talking to you now. And that happens quite a lot when children are very young. Generally, by the age of about 6 or 7, that imaginary ghost friend tends to fade away, because they tend to become then more more materialistic, more into the real world. So, but with some children that stays with them, and those children go on to be psychically gifted, and some go on to do what I do, which is giving readings to people, working with energy, and seeing spirit most of the time, on and off. You can switch it off, but sometimes it's awkward. So that's how it is. Some tend to go with it, some don't. Some forget they've seen it and move on in life and don't ever think about it again. So that's how it sort of works with what I do with a spiritual or a psychic medium.
So
That's
we
how that
all
works.
have this gift, all of us.
We all have the gift.
But not everybody is attuned to it then.
That's right. We all have busy lives, don't we? So you tend sometimes not to tune into what I call your gut feeling, your intuition, which is actually your psychic ability. So sometimes when things don't go quite right, and you feel that pulling, in your sort of solar plexus, that's your intuition going, shouldn't have done that. So it's sort of a little bit of a psychic.
Sorry to interrupt. Or like if somebody's not going to turn up, or something isn't going to work out the way you thought.
That's it. Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
That's your
That's exactly
intuition.
right.
But
when you
call it your
sometimes think,
psychic intuition.
that's it. Sometimes I think you're going to phone me, and you do. So it's that sort of thing. You sort of have that other awareness of what is around you, but lots of people don't have time to tune into that. That's why meditation is quite good, actually. If you wanted to develop your psychic ability, everyone, meditation is really good for that. So going back to the different forms of spirit, if you like, I think firstly it's that most people have had a psychic experience and don't know they've had it, or have had one and thought that was a very strange thing to happen. And often you find, like supposing you went into an old building and you walked in and you thought, it's really cold in this room, but actually this other room isn't so cold. Why is that room so cold? And you're picking up on that atmosphere around you. So you're sort of thinking, not nasty little breeze there, but that would be spirit, because they come in at a colder temperature to what we're used to. Say you stood somewhere and you felt something like a cold air brush past you and there was nowhere that there was a breeze. That could be spirit. So there's lots of ways that you feel spirit around you. And I think probably going into an older house is quite a really good one, because they're generally holding some form of spiritual energy, so you will generally pick something up. That's why the paranormal groups go to these places. I mean, they're brilliant for that. Personally, I don't think I'd stay in one overnight, but there you go.
But you're not, even though you're a psychic.
No, because I like to be in control of the spirit I'm working with, or not in control of them, but knowing who they are and why they're around me and what's going on. And that sort of brings you on to ghosts and earthbound spirits. So this is my belief, because there's absolutely no way I can prove this, but through sort of 30 odd years of working with spirit and doing what I do, I think I've probably had more or less all the experiences that you're going to have. Some great, and some have made me jump, and some I'm thinking not too keen on that. So there's all these different sort of experiences I've had that have led me to believe that ghosts, as you said, a ghost. What is a ghost? A ghost is like a replay in time. So, for instance, in the old town in Hemel Hempstead, which is fairly local to us, often in the cellars, in the pubs along there, because there's sort of a connecting tunnels, they see Roman soldiers walking through. Well, obviously there's no Roman soldiers there, but people are seeing them. So they're seeing them because the imprint of those soldiers has left its mark in time. So it's like a replay, like a video on a replay, an energy imprint in the atmosphere. So you couldn't talk to those Roman soldiers. They wouldn't see you or hear you. They're not really there. They just are an imprint. A friend of mine, he worked in a factory every morning. This guy would come in his white coat, and he'd walk right through the factory and out the door at the other side. They'd all make way for him. He wouldn't look at them because he wasn't really there. It was an imprint in that.
That's very scientific, isn't it?
It is, and I can't explain it. I don't know why that happens. I just know that does. Another friend of mine saw a highwayman just leaping over the fence on his horse. Now, he obviously wasn't there, and apparently other people had seen it at the same time each year. So my belief is that ghosts aren't really there. So there's nothing to be actually frightened of. You can still sort of see them. And I do believe sometimes you get that sort of coldness around that room or that area, but they're not really there. So they are a ghost. They aren't really there.
So they're not psychic energy. No.
Well, they could be, couldn't they? I mean, I truly don't know. I think they are imprints. So imprinted, like captured in a video. But, you take a video, don't you? That person isn't there, but you can replay that over and over again, can't you? So that's how I sort of liken it.
Well, so maybe it's something like really futuristic. Maybe they've managed to replay things and we catch a glimmer of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Who knows? I mean, I do believe there's parallel universes to this one. So who knows that, that one thing isn't happening there and happening again a little bit in the future and more in the future or in the past. Who knows? I'm no scientist, but I do know that ghosts aren't there as such. So actually nothing to be frightened of. Can make you jump a little bit, I think, you know, if all of a sudden there you see that person there, but they're not there. And that's why they don't acknowledge you. They don't, you know, you couldn't speak to them because they're not there. So yeah, you're quite right. I think a very psychic energy, yeah, quite likely. But you'd need to sort of.
Yeah, so that's more scientific. But when we watch
Well,
these programs, and I don't know, you know, the ghost hunters and people like that, and they get sort of experiences and things. And yeah, so
do.
tell me some more stories and things that have happened.
So those when they're doing the ghost hunts, generally they will go into a place that has had hauntings or sightings, and people say, do you know what, in my cellar things are being thrown around and I don't know what it is, and can you come and have a look? Now that could be what we call an earthbound spirit. Now that is somebody that will have passed over. They will have gone into the spirit realm, but either they're not happy, they've got some kind of unfinished business, they don't want to actually leave the earth plane, they're hanging around. Often people will say at funerals, they will see the person standing there watching all these fabulous people come to mourn them. You know, how lovely is that? So they don't want to leave. But what can happen with earthbound spirits is that they get trapped. I believe, when you pass to spirit, so our energy will leave our physical body. That is our soul. We aren't really. This is just a vessel for our soul, for who we actually are. And when we leave this body, we go into the spirit realm, which is the universe around us. We are part of that universe, and we go back into it. Now, some people, when they do that, perhaps they've been in an accident and they aren't quite sure that they've passed over. They don't realize, or they may realize and think, well, actually, I don't want to leave my body yet. I wasn't ready to go. Or perhaps they stay around and want to see that everybody else who was involved in that is okay. Or there's all these reasons.
Or
that
maybe
this can
somebody
happen.
hasn't let them go.
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. That is about bereavement, though. I think that is about giving permission for that soul to pass. So yeah, I've been there, so I know what that is like. So when these earthbound spirits do, they hang around. So they hang around for whatever reason. Now, some of them can get trapped here. Now, they can be trapped here because they're cross and they don't want to leave, or because they don't go with their spirit relatives and off to the light, and they don't go back into the universe. They get trapped. And it's like being trapped between our earth plane and the spirit world. So they're trapped. And then what happens after a while, or can happen after a while, is that they can't get back to the spirit world. There is no avenue for them to go to the spirit world for whatever reason at that time. So they become a little bit distressed. They can't make themselves heard. They can't speak to you. They sometimes can't show themselves. But what they do have is the energy, which they are. And what they do, they start using that energy to be disruptive. So they might start, energy is great with energy. So for instance, they might start switching on light switches when you're sat there watching TV, or they might turn your TV off. It's to get your attention, to let you know that they are there. Now, they might be cross, they might not be, they might just be stuck. That's where there are quite a few mediums that will do soul retrieval. So it will help the soul move to the light, help them move to where they need to go. And that is quite a specialist job. Because sometimes these souls don't even know they're dead. They don't even know they've passed. Theoretically, they're not dead, but they don't know they've passed. So they are stuck there trying to get your attention. And that is what we call the hauntings, I believe. That is when you start to get all this stuff happening. People go and they sit there, don't they? And they get this stuff happening around them, and they're making contact with this probably quite cross earthbound spirit who doesn't really want to be there, but knows that they've got no other choice but to talk to you. And that's how it can happen. Now, the other thing with earthbound spirits is why I probably wouldn't go unless I went with a group of really experienced mediums, is because they are energy, and the only thing they can live off is energy. So they're attracted to your energy.
Mm.
Now, that's fine. If you keep your vibration high, you keep your energy high, you're a positive person, you eat well, sleep well, you're in good health, that's fine. But if you're not, and perhaps you're using substances or you're depressed or stressed, that energy will just attach to you. And it does happen. So you have to be very mindful of contacting, if you like, or trying to contact Earthbound Spirits. You often find with the Ouija boards, now I have used a Ouija board, but totally in a controlled situation. But I would not advise using it if you're not protected and you don't know how to use it, because that's what you attract. And then you get stuck with that energy. And there it is, following you around, probably making you feel unwell, sucking your energy, making you feel a bit cheesed off. So I wouldn't go down that route. So that's those two, the ghost, the replay, the earthbound, not pleasant, and some are distressed and some you can help move on and you feel very sorry for them. I mean, you often find, say a couple, an elderly couple, one passes, the other one will hang around and wait. They will just wait. They will be earthbound around their partner or their husband or their wife and wait until that one passes for however long. So that can be months or it can be, a few years, can't it? I truly believe that my mum hung around to wait for my dad. They were, as you well know, they only had sort of 4 to 6 months, 4 months between them, which was good for them, sad for us. But Dad did say, he said, I've seen your mum. Your mum says this, your mum says that.
Did he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Which was lovely. I mean, not
what did
lovely,
he
but
see? What did he see? Are you able to share that a little bit? Because you haven't told me this.
Well, the nice thing was the first thing when mum actually passed the spirit, we were sitting in the lounge as my dad and I think my brother was in there as well, I can't remember. And the clock that was on top of the cabinet that hadn't worked for years started to tick and chime. And Dad said, "Oh, that's your mum," which I thought, how lovely that he knew, because that was mum's clock. He knew that, she would get that going. And that went for about 4 days. I mean, we're all stunned, of course, even though I believe what I believe. How fabulous is that? And the other thing he did, which was amazing, we had sorted all his television system out for him because he's in his 80s and he couldn't really work it very well. But he started fiddling with the cables at the back and he was messing about with it. And every time we go in there was a problem with it. So we said, "Dad, why are you fiddling with the cables?" He said, "Oh, your mum said I needed to do that." And I think she probably did because he was fiddling and she was trying to get him to put it right, I think. So he said, your mum said I needed to do that. So there was lots of things around him that I believe mum was there waiting with him. And when he passed, yeah, I think he could probably hear her and see her probably. And I think, how wonderful is that in that respect, which was lovely for us. And after he passed, we did have a reading with a lovely medium friend of ours. And he said, "Oh, your mum was there to take your dad," which was awesome. That's all you want, isn't it? To know that they're okay. So she waited for him. So how lovely was that? So that was a lovely little story for all of us to share, our, brothers and sisters. So that was really nice. So that was that. So that then goes on to what is a spirit. So spirits are us. That's what we are. And when we pass to spirit, we pass into that realm, the spirit realm. And mostly we'll have relatives and friends there and they'll come and take us and we will become one with the universe again. And that sort of brings me on to orbs, which we can talk about at some point, maybe not today. But so spirit, that's what you are. Spirit, you can interact with spirit. And that's what mediums like myself or, anybody working in the psychic field will do. You interact with the person that has passed on a simple level. And some mediums interact directly with spirit. So if I was giving you a reading and grandma came in and spirit said to me, grandma's here, I would say, I've got grandma here. Now, some mediums would be able to see grandma clearly, and they would explain what she looks like, and you'd go, that's great, that's my grandma. I know that's her because you've described how she looks. So that's proof of life after death, isn't it?
Mm.
Some mediums work differently. Sometimes I get that, but I work in a way that my guides, so spirit guides, will say to me, this is what you need to say. And then I will say it. Out it comes, for good or bad. And the client will say, yes, that's right. Or, it's not, of course. But generally, my guides don't let me down. So people work in different ways. But either way, you're dealing with spirit. So either way, you are talking to that person who's passed. And they are still here. They're still around us. We just can't see them. So that is spirit. You can interact with spirit.
Right.
So that brings.
Sorry, go
they're
on.
all different. No, so they're all different. It's people say, oh, a ghost is a spirit. It's not. It's not that. So that's how that sort of works.
So sorry, you were going to go on to the next bit.
I was going to say about how people see. How people can see spirit and how people can see ghosts. So a really great, I had a couple of stories for me, and I'm absolutely sure other people will identify with this. I'm sure people will have seen exactly the same as I've seen and perhaps not realize they've seen it. So I stopped, we were driving somewhere. I stopped in this little village, hadn't been there before, parked in the car park, got out, went over to this beautiful bridge that was sort of at the side of the car park, and there was a lovely river running under it. Now, as I was stood, there was two other people. Now, three of us saw this, so it wasn't just me. So that's lovely, isn't it, when you've got that confirmation? And we stood there, and all of a sudden we saw this little girl, and she was running along the bank. So at the side of the river, there were two banks that came up either side, and there was a pub. So this little girl was running along the riverbank, and I said to my friend at the time, I said, wow, that's a little bit dangerous, isn't it? And he said, yeah, why is she running along there? You know, it's a little bit sort of precarious. And my son was with us, and he was quite young at that time. And he said, oh, I can see her. You know, she's running. So we all saw her, and I thought, well, shall I go down there and rescue her? Because you could see her as plain as I'm seeing you. And it suddenly dawned on me. I thought, she can't be running along the side of the river because the banks were so steep that she would have been running. Well, she would have fallen in. She would have been running at an angle. So I sort of stopped for a moment, and I said to my friend, I said, I don't think that's happening. He said, well, I can see her. She was about 4 or 5, this child, we think. When we thought about it afterwards, she wasn't dressed in modern day dress. I would say she was probably 1940s. She had like a knitted bonnet on and a little sort of A-line coat. And of course, she wasn't there, was she? So it's quite possible at some time that that child had run along that bank, and she probably had passed. She'd probably gone into the river because her imprint was there. But the amazing thing was with that one is that 3 of us saw it. It wasn't just the one of us. Often it's just you that will see something.
Did it fade then? Did it sort of fade, or was it just gone as quickly as it was there?
She ran, and she sort of ran out of sight. So you couldn't have told whether it had faded or not. And because what it is because you expect to see something. Because we saw her running, we thought the bank was flat. Because you do, don't you? You see what you expect to see, but it wasn't that at all. This little girl obviously wasn't there. So that was a really good one for evidence, I think, because it was 3 of us that saw it. So that was fascinating, I thought. And people do see spirit and don't know they've seen them. And you see all sorts of things.
Yeah, what else? Because you're the one to tell it.
How long have you got? You can see spirit in shape. So, for instance, you could see an outline of a shape of a person. And perhaps if you were looking at, say, a white background, it might look darker as it walked past, which I've seen. You can see mist. So sometimes you will see like a white mist come across and you think, oh, problems with my eyes, and the white mist will come across, but then you will feel a little rush of air or a slight chill. That's seeing spirit. So you would see spirit that way. Some people, and I have done this, see spirit as solid as you are. So I didn't even know I was seeing spirit at that time. This man was as solid as you are. So I couldn't have said to you, that's spirit. It was only when he wasn't there, the next time I looked, I realized what I'd seen, which is quite freaky when you're younger. You can see spirit in orbs, and orbs are amazing. Lots of people now see orbs, and you see them perhaps when you've taken well, I know you know, but you take film on your digital camera, and you might pick up orbs. A lot of people say it's dust, but on a lot of occasions it's not dust, it's orbs. And some of these orbs have faces in them. Blow them up and have a look, and that is spirit. So they are just passing through or being brought for you to see them.
So is that a way that they could become more physical then, by becoming an orb?
I suppose so. It's more like they are energy. So they are still energy, but they, I suppose if you think about it, what are we when we're energy and spirit? We're not a form, are we? So we are probably balls of light, or we are sparks of energy. We are energy. We are not physical as we know it now. So there are lots of people that do take photos of orbs, and I've got quite a few. In fact, videos of orbs as well. They're amazing. And they do have faces in them, and that is spirit just coming to just floating by. They may not even be anything to do with you. A lot of people get them on their camera. They catch them on camera. Some people like myself can see them physically, so you will see them physically with your eyes, so as a flash of light, and often color out of the corner of your eye sometimes, not always. So you can see them, you know that they're around you just because of the light. You don't feel them particularly. I don't feel them, but you can see the orbs. So, but on camera, it's excellent, because they do say that we can only see about 10% of what is around us in the universe with our eyes. The rest of it we don't see. So
thank goodness, probably.
Probably, probably. But who knows? But with the invention of the camera, of course, we capture more, don't we? It's digital, it's faster, it sees more than we can probably pick up. So that's fascinating for me. I mean, the orbs we've captured on camera and on videos, when my sister and I and family have been videoing, particularly around my mother and father at one point, were mind-blowing. I've never seen anything like it. So they are out there. So spirit can show themselves like that.
Do you think
you
it
often
helps
find
you? Sorry, Christine. Do you think, just backtracking a little bit, do you think that knowing that and believing that as you do you think that helps you? Because you know that there's something more to this world, or to the next world.
I believe so. And I believe that's why I believe that we all need to believe there is more than this life, don't we? How can we possibly leave this body and not still exist as a consciousness? That doesn't seem possible, does it? No one thinks they're just going to go and not exist anymore. How can that be? And I think it does help people. You know, I know that you do your lovely bereavement counselling and everything that you do, which is fabulous. And I bet you get people wanting answers, don't you? And the same thing with mediums. That's why people come for readings. They want proof that their loved ones haven't actually died. They are still around. It's just the physical form that's died. It does help you. Of course, it doesn't help you sometimes. I mean, we lost Mum and Dad a couple of years ago, as you know, and I still miss them dreadfully. You miss the physical form, don't you? Of course you do. Even though I know Mum and Dad are there because I've had contact with them. I know that, but it's not quite the same, is it? Want that physical contact. So that is quite difficult for people. And I think it does, of course it helps to know that they are there, but it sometimes doesn't help, because you just want that hug, don't you? You can't have it.
So what other things have you seen?
I think the most extraordinary thing I ever saw was the full-blown man that came into the shop that I worked in years ago. And that really started me on my, what was that? I need to investigate more. And it was really strange. And it's funny how your mind rationalizes what you're seeing. That's really funny. I mean, I've seen lots and lots of things through the years that I can't explain, if you like, but this particular man was fascinating. I worked in an electrical shop. It was my father's electrical shop. I suppose I was, I don't know, 17, 18, I can't remember now, a long time ago. And I was just working, serving somebody in the shop. I'd finished what I was doing. I went to put some things away in the cupboard behind the door in the shop. And now there was a bell in the shop door. And if I'd thought about it, I would have heard it ring if someone came in. But I didn't think about it. As I stood up, this man walked past me. He walked past me from the shop area out to the back of the shop where the televisions and things were being repaired, which we used to do in those days. I thought, well, of all the cheek, well, cheeky man, how dare he walk past me like that and not even give me a look, not speak to me? How rude is that? I was quite indignant, as you do at that age. I thought, right, I'm going in there. I'm going to go into the workshop and I'm going to say to the guys in the workshop, could you help that gentleman? Walked in there and there was only the engineers out there. This man wasn't there. He wasn't there. So I said, did you manage to help that chap that walked through? What man? So that was that. And I thought, oh, that was so weird, so weird.
Because he looked so real.
Oh, I could have touched him. He was solid. He was solid. And that was quite strange. And it wasn't until about, I don't know, a year later, lady came into the shop and I wasn't there at the time. And she said to my dad, who was running the shop at that time, about her father. And apparently he used to run that premises as a bakery. And where the engineers were working out the back was the oven. It was the oven area where all the ovens were. And my dad not being very spiritual at that time, or at least me not knowing he was, said to her, well, it was really strange, but my daughter saw this man walking through, and because I described him to my dad and dad described him to this lady, she said, oh, that's my dad. He was the baker. He owned this shop. He was going through to the ovens.
So, and then that goes back to where you started talking about it being a video replaying. That's not necessarily his energy.
No,
but
not necessarily.
Something that was perhaps. Do you think it's like a repetitive event? So somebody did something every day at the same time. It just became like entrenched.
Yes, it could be. It could well be. And also, I do think, spirit are very aware of us like we are of them.
Are they?
And although, oh yeah, absolutely. Although there's no such thing as time in spirit, I do truly believe that if there's some anniversaries coming up, say birthdays of their passing, or even your birthday or something, often spirit will try and make contact with you if they can at that time. So it could have been that man wasn't a replay and that was a particular day for him that he wanted just to go back and visit. We don't know. You just can't, you can't tell. Often, I have seen people, I don't know if you've ever had it, where you have that really unusual experience where you walk into somewhere and you see someone and your eyes meet. And it's a really weird feeling, and you know that there is some kind of connection there. Now, they could be on this earth plane with us, but they may not be. You may be seeing spirit and you're connecting. I've definitely had that where I've seen someone from quite a distance and they've looked at me and I've looked at them and I thought, this is a weird experience I'm having here. And then they're gone. So I think we have all of these strange experiences. I think most people have them. Often we don't recognize them. I think for me, that man going into the electrical shop was a bit of a wake-up call for me, because it got me thinking a little bit about what was actually going on in the world. Although I didn't go straight into spiritualism then, it sort of shaped my life, and I then sort of started to explore more. And then obviously as a younger person, I suppose I was 21 when I sat in my first development group. Too young
What's a
for me at that
development
time.
group? A seance, is that?
No, it's not. It's where you start to develop your psychic ability.
Oh.
So you sit with like-minded people, mostly more experienced than you, and you train, and they look after you while you're tuning in and seeing what you can pick up from surround you. So they're the sort of groups that up until this year, I did run them. They're psychic development groups. So you would come and sit in a group, and we would work with spirit, however we did it, but in a controlled environment where you were safe. So you wouldn't, have problems.
So that's like you're saying that everybody has that ability. So
Absolutely.
you're helping them to engage with it.
Yes, I'm missing that now. I really do enjoy that. It's one of my favourite workshops.
Then? What about where people have got something and they don't want it around them? They've attracted that energy, or there's an energy in a place that they live and they just don't want it around them.
Absolutely. That can happen. That can be an earthbound spirit. It can be a spirit that is attracted to that particular, say, house. Let's say, for instance, a couple move into a house and they move in and they pick up the energy that's going on there. It could be that whoever was in that house before doesn't like the fact they've done some renovations, or it may happen for a while and then it might dissipate. It may be that they need to call in somebody to actually remove that spirit, but not remove them.
Who would they call then? Who would they call? Like a vicar, and get things?
No,
do people still do
yes
things
and no.
like that?
Depends what you believe.
Do people still get houses exorcised?
Sort of. Yeah, they do. There are mediums out there, and we know a few that will go in and they will tune into that spirit and say, what's going on? What is there a problem? Do you need some help? Are you stuck here? Do you want to move on? Are you grumpy? What's your problem? Do you want a message given to someone? And often it's just, I don't like them pulling that wall down. I don't like that colour wallpaper. And once the person said, oh, I'm really sorry about that, but I'm having it, they generally sort of move on. It's just to make themselves known and heard, I suppose. You do sometimes get unpleasant spirits that want you to know that they're there, and that's what they call like poltergeists, and they are sometimes the earthbound ones that really are very grumpy by this time. So again, you can get somebody in to move them on. Generally,
there's a school of thought, just interrupting you there, that wasn't there some sort of thought that if it was, let's say it was a very unhappy household with lots of negative energy in it, that could attract more negative energy. So then you could get things like poltergeist. But then the scientific aspect of that would be that the energies of the people is so strong that it's moving things or doing things. But actually, in your world, you would say that, as you did in the beginning, that if something somewhere is extremely negative, or if something particularly bad has happened there, or if people are, then it can attract entities that feed on negativity.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think that is right.
I wasn't saying it, I was asking.
Well, you're very good. Very good, Alex. I agree with you totally. I think you're actually right. What you've said is actually correct. I think, yes, I mean, wouldn't it be lovely if we could move things with our energy? There's probably no reason that we actually can't if we worked at it for long enough. But I do think you're quite right. I think if there's a stress or an nasty energy, or a disruptive stuff going on in a family, or it can attract low vibrational spirits, because the vibration in that place is low. It's not good, is it? It's probably stressed and anxious and angry and upset, and you're going to attract like energy. So you will attract spirit that are like that, and they will love that. Having said that, I do know a lovely lady that recently had a baby, and for 2 or 3 weeks, she had a lot of stuff going on in her house, and not unpleasant stuff, just things, clunks in the night. And obviously this spirit, who I probably think was probably grandma, very happy at the birth of the baby, just wanted to say, yay, I'm here. Congratulations. And once you acknowledge that person, they go, okay, that's fine. I acknowledge you. That's absolutely great. Can go. you often get, I totally often get as well, you get smells. Sometimes you get really
I've
unusual
heard people
smells.
say that too, a smell.
Oh,
A
you
sort
do.
of, yeah.
You do. And even though I'd done this work for a long time, I still get surprised by it. I had, must have been a couple of years ago now. Every night I went to bed and I could smell, like a medieval castle, that
Mm,
really damp, horrid, awful, wall type,
mm,
moldy smell every single night. And I
mm.
thought, I think I might have a damp problem here. And it wasn't until I went and had a reading with somebody, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And she said to me, "You've got a monk around you. He's been with you a long time."
Oh, that would
Uh,
be
fr-
scary.
from medieval times. I thought, wow, he pongs. But as soon as I acknowledged it, I didn't get that smell anymore. So answer me that. It's quite
So you think there's
unusual.
something in these entities just needing to be
Just to
acknowledged?
be acknowledged, I think so. Yeah, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? If you went and, your family weren't acknowledging you, wouldn't you want to let them know, however you could, that you were okay? Or,
Mm.
something, if they needed to do something, find the 50 million under the floorboard or
I'd be
whatever.
worried about a monk. I mean, I don't know, there's something a bit intimidating about a monk. Yeah.
Oh, Ralph, I think Father Ralph. I thought that's an unusual name. But I've never seen him. I didn't know I had him. I don't know whether he's still with me. He's not one of my regular guides. But once I acknowledged him, that awful smell went. So,
I suppose I'm thinking of a cloaked figure. That's it.
oh yeah,
Not
no, no,
necessarily the
no,
monk.
no, no,
It's
Alex,
that
no, no,
kind of,
no,
yeah,
no. It's
that's a
not
bit
scary.
scary.
Not
No,
scary.
not scary. So have you got any others in like that you live alongside that you know are around that you can share?
Um, yeah, we all have them actually. All of us have what we call spirit guides that we have around us, and particularly people that work as I do with the work that I do. And they protect us, if you like, because of the work that we do. You are sometimes very open to spirit. That's why you need to keep your vibration high and work at the highest level. I always say that to my Reiki students, because you're working with energy, you become more psychic. So you need to keep that energy high so that you don't attract lower entities. So the spirit guides that come around you, I didn't know about spirit guides until it's probably 30 years ago now. But these people are around you. They can be people that you might have known in a previous incarnation, or they can be family and friends that have passed to the other side, want to stay with you. Doesn't mean to say they become a fountain of all knowledge just because they've passed over, but they might perhaps do a bit of training and come back and just help you. So you can actually, if spirit want to talk to you, you can talk to anybody in spirit if they're available to talk to you. But with the work that I do, we have certain guides around us. All of us have these guides. You have guides. Just because you don't know who they are doesn't actually matter. They are still around you and they're still working with you. So when I do perhaps my dowsing, I maybe will talk to one guide and maybe I'll talk to another one the next time. Just depends on the questions I've got to
Do you
ask.
know who your
But
guides are?
yeah, I do. You have succession of guides as you sort of, my first guide was that I was aware of was a Native American Indian, very stereotyped, but I do have a real affinity with that culture. And I just knew he was with me. And it wasn't until I had a reading, years and years ago, and the medium said to me, "Wow, you've got a Native American Indian guide stood on your right hand shoulder." Well, I knew that because I could always feel that energy there. And if I work spiritually, I work from the right. She said, "Wow, he's good looking, isn't he?" I thought, well, I've never seen him, but I might try and might try and have a look now. So he was my first guide, and I used to work with him, and it was a comfort and reassurance that I was getting more spiritually developed, and he was there helping me. He's still around, but you move on. So as you become more spiritually aware and more in tune with what's going on around you, your guides change. So, for instance, if I teach Reiki, as you well know, I say to my Reiki students, you've all got spirit guides. As you start moving through the ranks of Reiki and you open up more spiritually, you have a guide come in to help you, and they will be your Reiki guide, whoever they are, and they will be with you. When you move on, or if you move on, or you change direction, or you become more spiritually aware, you get different guides come in at different times to help you, like friends do. Friends come in and out, don't they? And you've got the ones that stay, and they stay all the time, which is lovely, and they're always there for you. And you get the new ones who come in and say, wow, thanks very much for that help. So just as we are now. Yeah.
So they can pass through. They can come,
Absolutely.
stay for a
they
while.
change. I've lost a couple. I felt quite bereft when I lost a couple of my guides over the time, but I realized that there was nothing more that I could work with them on. I changed the way I was thinking, and I needed more answers, and I needed to delve deeper, and I needed to work differently. So they changed as I changed, which was lovely.
So what is it that you mostly do now? Do you do psychic readings for people still?
I do. I don't do it all the time, not like some people. If I always wait to see if somebody wants a psychic reading, I will always do it for them. I love my Reiki, because that is a great form of tuning into spirit, because it's an energy therapy. So I always say to everybody, if you have never done anything spiritual, do Reiki first, and then you will open up your energy, and you can then go on to tune in more, and then go on to psychic development. I adore psychic development. It's fabulous to see people go, wow, I didn't know that, or I didn't know I could do that, or I didn't know that was out there for me. So that is really fab. That's so rewarding. So that spiritual side of me, I think, is my favorite. I love the EFT, I do, of course, but that is my favorite.
And what is
side.
EFT?
EFT is emotional freedom techniques. It's again an energy therapy. It's a bit like acupuncture, but it's acupressure, and you just tap on all the acupuncture points with your finger throughout your body. And what it does, it takes away negative emotions from certain things that might have happened to you. So you still have a memory left, but you don't have that negative, debilitating emotion that goes with it. So you can move on with your life. So that's a really great energy therapy. I teach that as well.
So where you started with me by saying that everything is energy. So what's kind of fitting together for me here is that when you do your Reiki or your EFT or all of those things, you're actually adjusting the energy. You're forgetting about the physical, and you're adjusting and tweaking the energy of the person. Is that right?
It is. You're tuning.
Is that what happens with Reiki as well? That you,
yes, absolutely. Right. You tune into that energy. So Reiki is tuning into that energy. EFT is tuning into that energy, and so is giving readings for people. You're tuning into that other vibration, that other energy around you, and it's fabulous. I love it. It's so good.
So now because of lockdown, you've not been doing a lot. I know you write and you do other things as well, but what will you be doing when we get back? Will you be doing more of these psychic development classes?
I will, and meditation groups, and it's so. I mean, I'm
You've
so
missed
lucky.
it, probably, haven't you?
I have missed it absolutely dreadfully. So yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky that I've got a lot of people that love what I do, and they're all just waiting for the time when we can all get back together and do some more things. So,
and do you feel good energy coming, Christine?
I do. Yes, I do.
Good.
I do. I think this is a harsh time for us all, but I think it's a cleansing time, and I think we will come out the other side. I think it will be a good time. And I think perhaps we'll come out differently, but better.